Well, thank you so much for having me today. And wow, what an amazing community and what an amazing offering from SendPulse, their platform. Absolutely astonishing for all of us in a small business and coaching community and consultants, right? We're after the horsepower to make our lives better and easier so we can really fulfill the need of our clients, right? So thank you for having me. We appreciate it. What we're talking about today is unlocking revenue growth and putting structure in the messy middle. And what we're going to talk about today, and what I'll share with you, is the accumulation of 25 plus years in business and life, quite frankly, as well as some nuggets from reputable sources and surveys from companies such as Gallup. So everything we're going to talk about today is grounded in live discussions, talking with people. I probably talk with 20 or so folks, clients and colleagues and small business owners and coaches on a weekly basis. And I'm a huge fan of research. So we're going in the right direction, grounded in what we're hearing from people, as well as what data is telling us. And so with all of that, what we're really talking about today and what we've done is codify what I've seen people do to unlock gridlock for themselves and their teams. Personally, as someone raised in a very structured environment, I've been doing this without recognizing, without kind of the actual methodology for as long as I can remember. And we've been using this methodology to coach our clients and our leaders and our teams for the past 10 plus years. And most organizations see an increase in their win rates by about 30%. They see an overall conversion rate of about 20%. And overall, once we have a plan and we know we're running in the right direction, quite frankly, we're not as stressed out. We're not chasing this shiny object. We're focused in, and we're healthier and we're happier. And so I'm Dionne Mejer. I run Revenue by Design, and we offer sales and business coaching as well as sales consulting. And what I really hope you get and take away from today is a renewed mindset to tackle your biggest challenges and turn them into victories for you and your team. Further, I hope you leave with at least 3 nuggets. We've got a bunch of giveaways for you. I know SendPulse has a bunch of things for you as well within the community. I'm a big fan of the abundance mindset. So we have a ton of freebies for you and giveaways. In the meantime, for those of you, there's the QR code to connect with me on LinkedIn. I encourage you, please connect with me. We'll invite you to some of the offerings that we have. And as well, it would simply be great to connect with you. And again, my hope is that you leave here with at least 3 things that you can tackle in the upcoming weeks to get rid of a problem you have and don't want, so you can have a solution that you want and don't have. So as we move forward and dive into this methodology, keep those things in mind. What are the biggest things top of mind for you? And there's no right or wrong answer. Sometimes it's tactical, sometimes it's strategic. And these are the questions we ask. We have a monthly executive peer group that we run. And this is kind of where we start with everybody, is what's really top of mind? What are the problems we're trying to solve? What would happen if we didn't have it? And what needs to happen to not have this problem? So kind of keep some of those things in mind as we walk through this methodology. So here at Revenue by Design, we believe with starting with the end in mind. And so with that, we are going to dive in. And so what you're looking at now, and the 3 things that really help us unlock any bottleneck that we have, is a 3-step approach. We're big fans of groups of 3. And we start at the top with identifying, then we move to the right, and my right, talking about specify, then we get into testify. And so we work in groups of 3s. We do this for ourselves here at Revenue by Design. We do this with all of our clients. And here's why. According to Gallup, whether we have, and I'm going to preface this by saying whether it's us as a solopreneur or we have a team or a small team, doesn't matter the size, our employees and our team roughly don't have any trust in us because as leaders, maybe we're chasing the shiny object and we haven't identified and anchored on priorities. Maybe we haven't given people specifics enough. And so literally to the tune of about 20%, maybe 23% is the trust factor that our teams have in us. And that's kind of costing us revenue. It's costing us reputation. And sometimes if we're a consultant, what that's costing us is moving into more of the trusted advisor chair with our clients. So this methodology can be used internally as well as externally. And again, this is the mind map that we walk our clients through to get unlocked and unblocked. We have strategic guides, we do workshops and things of that nature, and we do coaching sessions with our clients. But what we're really after is muscle memory, because and internalizing this methodology, because we want to rely on a rhythm instead of a whiteboard, because sometimes we're moving too fast to stop and sketch things out. There's value in both approaches, but we need to know when to deploy which approach. So that being said, when we are engaged in business and when we are stuck somewhere, maybe we're stuck in a swirl, maybe we're stuck with, we don't know which priority we should actually bump to the top. One of the things we always talk about is identify. What are your top 3 initiatives or projects? And don't go beyond that. And then we start moving to specify. I have clients right now going through different programs that we have to get their sales reps to be better, more sales professional. And we've got new leaders that we're coaching. And 9 times out of 10, what's missing is, where are we starting? Where are we going? And what's needed to get you there? And then we start testifying. So once we identify our top initiatives and our projects, then we want to get really specific around there. What do we have today? What do we not have today? I've got a group of new leaders where it's a smaller company. Well, not really. They're about 12 million going to 20. And these are very driven entrepreneurs that have grown the company. And there's a group of 3. They promoted their individuals to managers. These are new managers, meaning they've never held a leadership position before. And really the request was for them to do director level work. And director level work is when you are creating something. A manager manages a system already in place. And so there was a little bit of grinding going on and puzzlement as far as why we weren't moving as quickly as we needed to. But we had to take a few weeks to really start looking at, how do we create a system based upon, and getting specific around that system based upon the initiatives and projects we've identified. Then we want to move into testify. And I chose that word on purpose. Testify literally means simply to state the facts. And a lot of times when we're in our organizations, if we're a solopreneur, we're running, we're smart, we're flexible, we got into business to help people. We're really trying to do the best we can for our clients and for ourselves. And sometimes what happens is we forget to simply state the facts because maybe we're running on gut feeling. And I've done that. I'm sure we've all done that. We want to stop doing that and be able to marry data with our gut decisions at the end of the day. So then we want to basically programatize what we're doing. And so this is the work we're doing with our clients right now, and maybe something that you could use as well. What have you identified as an initiative that you want to tackle? Then let's really get specific around the meat of that topic, and then start testifying. On this date, we're going to start this initiative, and we're going to measure it this way. And by this date, it's either going to be an end date or a course correct date. And here's what success looks like. Once we start putting all of those components together, now we can have some clarity for ourselves. Even if we're a solopreneur, we can have clarity for our teams. We'll have some resources for you here as well. And then, of course, for those of us that are consultants and coaches, we take this approach into our clients as well. So we're going to dive in and get a little bit more specific around all of this, because here are the facts. Our world has changed. It's probably changed 7 times in the last 8 years, right? And so our world has changed. How people consume information has changed. Our buyer has changed. And I've said this, I went to market 10 years ago with my own business, and the world clearly is very different, right? Anybody want to give a testimony as far as how your clients engage with you? And what our buyer is after right now, what they've always been after, is help with implementation and help with the how. They can Google, I mean, they can do an internet search for just about darn near anything. Any of us can. But what we're really after sometimes is help me with the how. Like, I have all the dots. I need to know how to put the dots together to get to where I want to go. And that's the power of putting in a mind map and methodology that helps us unlock this messy middle. Because again, we can put the stake in the ground that says, hey, we're going to go do this, and here's how we're going to measure it. It's the middle that sometimes trips us up. Our world moves at the speed of now, faster than it ever has. Our technology isn't always adopted properly. Budgets are certainly very tight. And right now, my background is in technology, B2B SaaS, and I remember the days of free big money. Unfortunately, that didn't go very well because there wasn't necessarily the accountability in place at a deeper level. And so really accountability now throughout all of our initiatives is becoming a thing, which is really exciting. And this mind map can help us with that. And of course, it's very noisy. Simply think about the amount of emails we all get every day. Our phones are going off, right? All that good stuff. So we're getting email, we're getting text, we're getting notifications on Facebook, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Telegraph. I mean, you name it, we're getting pinged on all sides. And so the big idea that we want to think about today, that we think about all the time for ourselves and our clients, and the feedback we give everybody is, man, it is so easy to start. It's hard to finish and finish well. Think about maybe the amount of projects that you have on your plate that need to really get across the finish line. And again, when we're in the middle, it's hard to maintain momentum. It's hard to see that. It's hard to think about what happens when we're finished with a website, with a client, a particular piece of our coaching or in our consulting engagements, and what is our next step. And so the aha moment for all of us, and I do this all the time, is when we're in the messy middle is identify the very first step and take it. And sometimes that's as simple as, you know what, I have an idea, I have feedback from my client, I'm not sure of the next step. And sometimes it's as simple as asking questions. And so here's why we want to think about this is we, according to Psychology Today, have about 6,000 thoughts per day. I don't know about you, but I think that resonates pretty well with me. And so we cannot keep up. And especially for a small business owner, right? That affects us tremendously. And so those 6,000 thoughts a day are coming fast and furious. Again, doesn't matter if we're a solopreneur and have a team. Really, at the end of the day, is having a mind map, having a methodology, and having this muscle memory will help us name our thoughts and tame it. Because the thought is we can't tame it if we can't name it. And so really this first step in identifying our top projects and initiatives is to give us clarity. And you can do this with your team. Take a vote, create a survey monkey. What are the top 3 initiatives? Pair all of that together at the end of the day. And then, because once we actually put our ideas down on paper, the elevation in our head goes down and it becomes an anchor for us. Because again, 6,000 thoughts a day, we can't keep up with them. And sometimes they don't take hold. And then if we don't anchor, we lose traction. And we, quite frankly, we keep anding ourselves to death. Here's what that looks like. A colleague of mine, she's amazing, running on the ops side of a business I was working with. And her leader, fantastic individual, super smart, that's never the issue. This individual kept giving her things to do until she got to the point where she listed them all out, took them to her manager and said, here's everything that's been on my plate that's come from you, which is fine, but I need your help prioritizing because I'm not doing anything well. He was shocked because when we're in the middle of it, we don't realize what we're doing. So the exercise of stopping to identify gives us pause. And once we literally write it down, we can see, we have a visual of what's going on in our head that can give us pause and give us that clarity. I have 2 amazing children. They're 15 and 12. When I went on maternity leave, it took 18 people to do my roles. I was a practitioner at the time. So shame on me for not pausing at that moment. But it literally took 9 people the first time and 7 the next time, right? Or 8 the next time. So what we don't want to do is bombard ourselves, because what happens is if we over index on what we think we can do, we end up not doing anything well, which leads to kind of feeling like crud. It doesn't give us a sense of accomplishment. So when we identify, get with our team and agree on things, we have a direction, we have clarity, we have perspective, we have hope that we can execute on these things. And when we do, we have that sense of accomplishment at the end of the day. So the next step for everybody, like Elena was saying, is identify. What are our next steps are to identify our top 3 priorities in our life, sometimes in our company, with our team, and write them down. Don't move past this, right? So sometimes we're going to skip ahead and we start getting into the details. That's not the point. The point is literally get down in it and just talk through the different priorities across the board. Because once we do that, then we can get into specify. And now we want to get specific, because if we don't have specifics, we can't plan. Now, we live in a world of no surprises. We know when our Amazon packages are going to show up. We know just about darn near everything. You can Google stuff. You can do some research. We can track our marketing campaigns. We can track when people open things. We can track so many things. And so the difference, though, is when we're thinking about business priorities, sometimes those ideas are really, really nebulous. And so what we want to give ourselves are these specifics, because we can't be successful if we don't know what this looks like. And remember, our ideas, we all want to be successful. We want to feel that sense of achievement and job well done. And so our specifics are the stepping stones in our journey from starting with the idea to crossing that finish line of a job well done. Personally, I'm in the middle of switching over websites, and it's been lingering now for about 5 months, because I'm in the middle of switching a few things in my business, and it didn't make sense to press into and incur the project and a cost of a new website, because I needed to do some of the background work and foundational work. So in addition to that, we need to measure how far we've gone, and we can't do that if we don't know where we started, right? And so that's really, really important. So the best examples are, if I want to lose weight or if I want to get healthy, we always measure a starting point. If I want to grow my online presence, I need a benchmark. So it's really about knowing where we start, because ambiguity is the death of all things good at the end of the day. And so we really need those specifics. Here's an example. One of our clients, they're a larger enterprise client, and they spent $3 million on a sales acceleration platform. $3 million. The problem is this team was not a couple of things, well-versed in vetting what they needed. So they ended up getting the software, but no service package, which was an additional couple $100,000. And remember what we said about budgets being tight? Well, now we have a buying committee at this client that is feeling sheepish, because they now have egg on their face, because they're feeling like they got caught not asking the right questions, which they didn't because they weren't experienced. Plus, they got sold a bunch of software that wasn't going to work and be implemented properly because they had no implementation package. Ouch. In addition to that, there were not necessarily the discussions internally to lead this organization through change management, meaning the reps who are interested in selling every day didn't want to use this new software because they didn't see the value in it and they didn't understand. So now we have a $3 million investment sitting there. In addition to that, they actually had an internal tool that was part of a package already that they could have used as maybe a stopgap measure to help with the change management. I don't know about you. I'm not in the business right now of buying $3 million worth of software. However, what I am in the business of is a couple of things: getting a new website, And you know what? I took my own medicine and went, wow, the marketing campaign, that the platform that I'm using actually has a lot of the tools that I was looking for. So I needed to stop, and instead of going out to market and looking for different tools, I needed to stop and look what I had internally and think about, wow, is what I've already invested in going to get me to where I need? Or what does that look like moving forward? Because what we want to do when we get specific is take our current inventory. We take our priorities that we talked about, and we almost want to do an inventory, especially if it's tool related. Do I already have something in place that can work just as well? Number one. Number two, I also want to make decisions though for my future state. So if I know next year I want to be doing certain things in my business, I want to look at my current information and my current stack, and what I'm currently doing is what I'm doing today serving my future self. And then of course we can make some incremental changes as we need to. But the goal with getting specific is really, again, getting specific. What do I want to do? What we've agreed on our initiatives. What does it look like to really get specific around them? What's my current state? And that's what we want to think about now as we get specific around our next steps. Because again, what we're after is unlocking revenue growth. So for me, it was about moving forward. I was now able to hire a virtual assistant and offload certain admin functions that were on my plate that weren't serving me anymore. So sometimes it's about is what I'm doing from a hardware, software, concrete perspective, or even a soft perspective, right? What is the current state, and what do I want that state to be? And then what do I do next at the end of the day? Because once we start getting down into this, it bleeds out a lot of that emotion that we might feel around, we feel comfortable doing certain things. I'm super comfortable talking with people and coaching and all that good stuff. However, that probably isn't going to get me to where I need to be if I don't have the right foundation. So hopefully those examples help a little bit as we get specific, because now what we want to be able to do is testify. So for some of you might be going, that's a little funny of a word, but it really means to simply state the facts. And we're not mind readers. And again, a lot of times it's easy for us as humans, and this is normal, to get really tactical. It's a lot harder to zoom out and look at the person, whether we're on screen or in person, and say, what's really the problem? Like, what's really holding you back? So for the 3 leaders that I'm coaching right now, what was holding them back is they didn't know what happened after the work was done. So for example, one of the things we always have leaders create is a skills matrix for their team. Top 5 hard skills, top 5 soft skills. And their holdup was not knowing, what do they do with it when they're done with it, and how do we deploy it to the team? So we had that discussion, because it's not necessarily about the work we're doing, it's what happens after the work is completed. And so we really want to be specific and get to the root of what it is that we're doing, why we're doing it, how we would deploy it. That's what the Testify, the step 3 is really all about. Because sometimes the hardest thing to do is to start, because we don't know what's on the other side. But progress is always on the other side of hard work and due diligence. And so, and it's fear, which is fear, for those of you, I don't know if anybody has heard this before, but it's false evidence appearing real. I don't know if my team's going to like it. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I have that too. I'm a recovering perfectionist and people pleaser. Maybe some of you are as well. And so once we kind of get these pieces in place, we have a very clear plan. We now have this amazing confidence to talk with people about. So one of the things that we started this year as part of our coaching was peer groups. And I had the same exact moment of fear, and I had to follow this mind map and think about, okay, what is it going to look like to host a peer group? What do people need from me? What do we think good looks like at the end of the day? And really dig into a peer group and what that means and how to add value for our clients. So in January of this year, we started with 2. We have a virtual peer group and we have an in-person Orange County executive peer group. And we are now growing to 8 by the end of Q3 and 14 by the end of the calendar year, because we put the process in place, because we identified it as a priority for us and our clients. We got specific around it. We created a super simple playbook. We'll add to it, but we had to ship a V1. So we put some documentation in place. We solicited the invites. We went out to market with it and we shipped it, and we're iterating on it as we go. And so those are just some of the things. So if you're thinking about your initiatives and your projects that you have, get specific with it, and then think past getting the work done and what it looks like to ship the project, right? So I come from a software background, so it's always about shipping software. Because when we over communicate and we testify the facts of our priorities and goals, it leads to alignment, it leads to clarity, it leads to everyone on the same page. Everyone has the right perspective. Everybody knows their roles and responsibility, and it clears away the gray. And it aligns us on a set of shared words and vernacular, a culture, a way of being, and it really gives us that cohesion. And so, because I firmly believe that a tight team will win every day and twice on Sunday over a loosey-goosey. And so a couple of things that we do with all of our clients is we always have a purpose statement creation. Everybody goes through an annual planning exercise. It's very simple, I promise. It sounds pretty big for those of you that are like, oh man, annual planning. It's a super simple 3-step process designed to be high level and introspective. We have everybody create a skills matrix, but those are the common vernacular and exercises that we do here at Revenue by Design, and then all our clients do, so that as we go into coaching calls or we go into our peer groups, everybody's on the same page and we're using that same language. So for you, and we think about our next steps, and Testify is looking at our top 3. What does that look like? And you might not have that right now, and maybe you're thinking about some action you need to take to identify those with your team. That's perfectly okay. And hopefully you feel confident to ask questions and get those done. And then we really want to think about the specifics around that. What do we have in place? What's our current state? What's our desired future state? What do we have now? What does that look like? What does success look like, right? Then we want to think through those 2 components to really take our ideas and breathe life into them. Because again, fear will tell us that we're not ready, and that's just not true. For some of us, the marketers on the call, I do the same thing where maybe I'm going to go ahead and ship something, or I'm going to post a video, or I'll post my newsletter. But have I done the work to tell my VA what needs to happen? Have I created a content calendar? Have I created the big picture for everybody to understand where we're going? Number 1. And number 2, thinking about it from this qualitative component. I'm going to pause a second and go back to quantitative, the logistics, right? These are the facts. We're going to run a campaign. Here's our content calendar. We have start time, end time, milestones. What KPIs are we using to track our progress? And KPIs, I think, are very personal. There's KPIs and metrics. Those are 2 different things for everybody. Your KPIs are your top 3. They might be impressions. They might be growing your email list. They might be meetings set. The big numbers that we really want to look at. Your metrics are everything that feeds into that at the end of the day. Conversion rates, things of that nature. And those are going to be separate and different for probably everybody. There's some commonality, but at the end of the day, we need to do what works for our business and our teams. So, but quantitatively, that's the easy part. The who, what, how, when, where, and why. The qualitative piece takes a little bit more effort on our part. I'm a firm believer too that we don't own the feelings of others. However, we're responsible for the impact. I'm fairly direct, and if I know I'm working with somebody who is not fairly direct, it's incumbent upon me to change my approach. Meaning qualitatively, how do I want to deliver a message? I need to know my audience. And so as example, when Elena and I were talking and prepping for this, I asked, who's the audience for SendPulse? And and she was telling me marketers, small business, solopreneurs, and man, that's me, right? And so we're all in the same boat, and I think we're all trying to do the same thing. And I love the SendPulse platform; it's amazing. And so when we're looking at qualitative for myself is, and I'll share with you a couple of resources here in just a second, but how do I identify the person sitting across from me so I can qualitatively connect with that person, right? So we want to think about some of these things. When we think about qualitative, the purpose statement exercise that I mentioned before, we walk everybody through as well. So because we want to anchor on our purpose statement, we want to anchor on our belief system. So for us at Revenue by Design, our purpose is to make the world a better place, one team at a time. I do this by making sure I'm staying current. I do this by making sure that I'm leaning into my strengths, that I am reading, that I am grounded, that I am well rested, that I have balance in my life so I can show up to be the best version of myself for my clients and my colleagues, my family. And we know we're successful when our clients and our teams achieve their goals quantitatively and qualitatively. I went through that kind of fast. If you want the prompts for the purpose statement, happy to send those to you. But we guide everybody through that as well, because as a leader, it then anchors us to that as well. And again, we get to coach back into that. So with that, one of the things I want to share with you, like I said, we have guidelines, we have worksheets, we have all of that for our clients because we want to make it easy to learn. And then we also want to make it easy to internalize and make this muscle memory. So what you're looking at here, it might be kind of small. Hopefully, you all get these slides, is we encourage everyone to think about what are your rays of revenue? How are you going? What are your paths to revenue for your organization? Do you offer coaching? Do you offer consulting? Have you written a book? Are you doing speaking engagements? Whatever those rays of revenue are, then there's a little line down there as far as getting specific. And again, filling that in our current state. Who's our audience, how many. One of the things that I wanted to do this year, it wasn't necessarily going to lead to revenue, but it was one of the things that was really important to me was referrals. And I have it on my specifics every week is to make at least 5, if not more, referrals and introductions to my clients and colleagues to hopefully generate business every week. So when we think about getting specific, that's kind of the specificity we want to get down into. Okay. And so a little bit of that information for you, because once we start getting specific, once we start identifying our priorities and our specifics, this is step 3. I told you it's super simple. It's a 3-step annual plan that we have everybody complete, myself included. I've done this for the last 9-10 years, and everybody completes it. And we then plot things out. We plot out our main activities quarter over quarter. And everybody that is in our peer group right now, I'll share with you, has achieved their Q1 goals. So we have about 25 folks right now in our peer groups. Everybody has achieved their revenue goals for Q1. And now as we move into Q2, we're about leaning into marketing. And we're also about leaning into delivery, right? And so for those of us that are small business owners, how do we deliver at scale once I achieve certain goals, those are good problems to have. So we're talking through some of those things. So again, you can go ahead and take a look at this. The whole point of this mind map, the whole point of this exercise is for all of us to know what that structure looks like in the messy middle. We all get excited in January. We all feel a sense of urgency in December. Deadlines create urgency, right? So end of year comes. And what we're after is really from February to October, locking in a stepped approach for us that we can feel really good about, that we're all on the same page with. So that's what you're looking at here. Like I said, everybody completes it. We've seen tremendous success with it. And so for all of us, what's next? It's really booking time with ourselves. If you don't already, one of the things we always recommend, and I struggle with too to this day, is time on our calendar to reflect, Give yourself that CEO power hour. No one's going to do it for us. And again, I struggle with it because I'm always like, yeah, sure, we can meet. And then I kick myself. So one of the things that we always should have for ourselves, and if you need an accountability partner, happy to connect, is really the mental exercise to embrace and internalize this process to get the results we want and don't have. And so you have a testimonial there from a gentleman who's a part of our group. And so that's really what's next is block time for yourself, whatever it is, that problem that we talked about at the beginning. What is that? And block time on your calendar if you haven't already to really think about it. Go through this exercise, get specific with it. And again, we've got some offers for you here. We, again, huge fan of giving things away. So we've got some gifts for you. Right there on the right-hand side is our ebook called The Power of One, Doing One Thing Really Well. It's a short ebook, about 9 chapters, and dives into lead generation to marketing to sales. And again, just some tips and tricks in there for you. But I encourage you, for those of you that are probably multitasking, I know that's a lot of us these days, grab your phone and open up that QR code. If you want to talk about our peer groups, happy to do that as well. By no means are you required. But if you're looking for maybe an executive peer group with coaching that can give you some answers and help you through some of this, or by all means, that's on the left there is a QR code to my calendar. Happy to chat with you. Regardless of where you're at any given moment. And if not, please feel free to download our ebook. We do a ton of free things for our community to give them the tools they need. And so with that too, one of the things I'm a big believer in, I've written a book, and I'm a huge fan of resources. These books are ones that I've written that have helped me get to sales with soul. And for a lot of times, for us, in our marketing efforts, we might be at odds with our sales counterparts. How do we bring everybody together? And sales at the end of the day is really about helping. Selling is helping. And so the book you see there, The Go-Giver, then Sensational Salesman, is really all about that premise of sales with soul. And then the One Person Multiple Careers is also about this / career and how we can do multiple things at once. And I don't know about you, but as a Gen Xer, that was unheard of. And so I'm the first person in my family to go to college. And it was, you go to college, you get a job, you go and you spend 30 years working here in this office. You get the gold watch and you retire. And that is a myth, right? For some people, that's still a path, but for others, not so much. And so the whole / career, and I do what I do, and maybe you do what you do, is to have flexibility. I want to be there for my kids and my family. I want to be able to deliver quality work for my clients. But it was really about the flexibility and taking what I'm really good at according to my clients and delivering more of that. So that whole One Person Multiple Careers book is fantastic. The way they learn was really insightful in learning how individuals literally need to learn. It's a study that's written and pertains to children, but I gotta tell you, a lot of that pertains to a lot of what I do, and maybe you as well, because 9 times out of 10 when I work with engineers, that mindset and how that brain works is very different than how I work with salespeople or marketing or maybe some of the creative folks. So that book was really helpful. And then Small Giants was also really, really impactful. And I'm a huge fan of Bo Burlingham. And Small Giants is really about companies that choose to stay small to do really great work. Cliff Bar is in there. There's a few others that are in there, I think Tom's. And it was really, again, inspiring where, you know what, the question, I don't know about you, was, hey, Dionne, are you going to scale? No, I'm not. And I needed to find an elegant way to answer that question. And Small Giants really gave that to me. So if you're curious about more of those books, there's a QR code there. You can take a look at them. It'll link you to a page that we did with Shepherd Publishing that will give you a little bit of synopsis there. And so with that, I simply want to say thank you so much there's an access to. You're probably like, oh man, this presentation, so many QR codes. But if you're curious, we've got the stepped approach as well, which is a paperback book for you. There's also an ebook with additional information. If you go to my author page on Amazon, that you can download that ebook as well, that will give you some worksheets and tips and tricks. So with that, thank you so much for having me. And I open it up to questions. And if anybody would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, I encourage you to do so. Always happy to talk. And if I can't help you, I'm pretty sure I know somebody who can, and vice versa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dionne. Thank you for sharing your valuable tips, insights, and ideas. It was so inspiring, and your presentation was incredibly interesting. And I've personally gained a lot of new ideas. For instance, to book some time for myself only.
We forget that so much. We're like, oh, it'll be fine. But we just run ourselves ragged, Elena.
Yeah, agree. Okay, let's get to the questions. Let's answer some questions from our audience in the chat. So there is a question. Hello, our niche is digital information products. Can you share some specific innovative sales techniques that can help boost sales or revenue?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I would say I can give you some probably generalities with that, Helen. But my questions would be like, if I were to come in as your coach, I would say, who are you selling it to? Why would people buy it? What is your offer? Is it a compelling offer? Can you bundle some of your services? What is the result people get when they purchase your digital information products? So I would start there. And I don't know. So if you have some of those things, then it's a matter of, are we getting in front of the right people? Do we have an easy sales process? Are we making it easy for people to say yes? So I'm happy to talk with you a little bit more about that, but I don't know if that's helpful or not, but you can put that in the chat. But it's really about answering, what is our offering? Do we have a compelling message? Do we have like a bundled offer? Do we have a downsell? Do people know what they get when they buy from us? Are we going after the right people? What are the results we're after? So maybe start there. The other thing you can do is, if you know your ideal client, is make a list of 20 and do market research calls. Don't sell anything. Really just call, book some time with them. You're probably going to have to reach out to people at least 8 times, right? But most people are happy to get on a call and participate in market research. Make it a survey. Say, hey, we're going after 20 to 50 people. Do you mind taking the survey? Here's why. And then, oh, by the way, at the end, you get the survey results. You can definitely do that. And then part of your market research then is saying, hey, do you mind if we actually follow up with you? I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you. A question from Valerie. How would you recommend to handle situations where we seem to do our best but are not meeting our set goals?
Yeah, and it happens, right? So one, I would say, don't feel, I'm going to use the word ashamed, right? Because sometimes we get really down on ourselves when we don't hit our goals. We're like, man alive, what the heck is wrong with me? So make sure you're not doing that, because I do that. Maybe it's just me. But I would say, number one, really look at your goals. And sometimes we set a goal and maybe it's not the right one, or maybe it needs to be tweaked a little bit. So step one, do we have the right goals? And if we do have the right goals, did we put the supporting structure around them appropriately? So again, I don't have specifics around it, Valerie, but if one of our goals was to grow a certain product line or grow revenue or get speaking engagements, whatever your goal was, did we have the supporting infrastructure to achieve those goals? Right? So kind of identify, get specific around it, and then identify what worked and what didn't, and then tweak and go from there. Again, happy to connect on LinkedIn and talk more.
Yeah, makes sense. Thanks. Thank you. I can see any other questions in the chat. Thank you from Helen. A lot of things to think about. Okay, and I have a question based on that. If we decided to make some changes in our goals, in our processes, how would you recommend to effectively communicate changes in priorities, goals to our teams and stakeholders?
Yeah, and that's a really, really good question, Elena, because a lot of times we think process, everybody's going to be on board. I'm not saying that's you, but sometimes like we have a great idea, it's going to be amazing, let's go. And we forget to bring people along on the journey with us. So we like groups of 3. And so when we talk with people about this, if you're going to change something up, we acknowledge, empathize, and move on. So that framework, acknowledge, empathize, and move. So to your point is if you're going to change your priorities, you want to have the discussion, kind of the slow down to speed up, that talks about, hey, listen, here's the big idea. We're going to change our priorities. Here's why. And you kind of have to go a little bit slow to say, here were our old priorities. Here are our new priorities. And here's what we're going to do about it. But I would also recommend when you're doing that, Elena, is you're going to do a few things at the same time. Why are you getting rid of your old priorities and your goals? Who needs to be part of that conversation? That kind of goes into the specify, right? Who needs to be a part of it? Who's a stakeholder? How would we communicate this out? What do people's days look like right now? Because somebody might be running hard on a goal and they're going to feel really crappy if the goal changes and they just did a bunch of work that isn't going to be used. So really dig into what do we have, all that, get specific. Then you want to be able to say, hey, what do we have that you've already done that maybe we can repurpose, things of that nature? Who needs to be a part of the new goals? And how do we make sure we're not having to redo our goals all the time? Does that help a little bit?
Thank you. Yeah, so be honest and specific as much as we can.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Recognize
you.
that there's going to be an emotional knee-jerk reaction, and we need to ride that wave. Right? Because people, we're done with change, right? Nobody likes it. It's just a human nature. But just ride the wave of change and call it out. Acknowledge, I know this is going to be hard. Maybe we don't like change and we're going to get through it. And here's why we're doing this. And here's what we're going to do next. Keep it simple.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, it appears we've addressed all the questions, and as we near the end of our session, I want to turn you, Dionne. Is there anything you'd like to emphasize or add before we wrap up?
Oh, I would say none of us are alone. And whether it's connecting with me or digging more into the SendPulse community, each other, have your accountability group, have a peer group. We're not alone. And I would say take a few minutes after this to think about what are your takeaways from our time together and dig into that, set your goals. Like Elena was saying, have your power hour, right? All that good stuff. So really think about what you want your life to look like and what you want your business to look like going forward. Get specific around it and make it happen.
Yeah, sounds good. I like it. Thank you so much, Dionne, for sharing your valuable tips, insights, ideas, some examples. Guys, be sure to connect with Dionne on LinkedIn and follow SendPulse on social media to stay connected. Once again, a big thank you to all of you for joining us today. Your participation means a lot to us. Stay tuned to our social media for updates on future webinars and events. We'd love to have you join us again. Thank you, Dionne. Thank you, friends, and I wish you all a wonderful week ahead. Goodbye and take care.
Thank you.